Of course, now we are seeing really the stunning reversal from him. A lot of this is, and we've heard this from Donald Trump.
Like, I'm willing to bet that TikTok as a treat is so powerful that even if it was like somehow undermining people's privacy in a more meaningful way than other applications, because it doesn't currently, okay, people will still be like, no, don't ban it. I don't care. I like it. All right, let's get back to Pamela Brown sharing what Trump said after the TikTok's court ruling. JD Pondon, the GOAT.
Because the concern is that ByteDance has obligations and allegiances to the Chinese government. And the specific national security concern is that this app is collecting enormous amounts of data on Americans, and that data could be used or manipulated in a crisis. Now, in its decision, the court said that even TikTok, quote, did not dispute that the government has an important and well-grounded interest in preventing China from collecting the personal data of tens of millions of U.S. TikTok users. Nor could they. The platform collects extensive personal information from and about its users. Now, Justice Gorsuch wrote, quote, speaking with and in favor of a foreign adversary is one thing, allowing a foreign adversary to spy on Americans is another. Now, TikTok had argued that this ban is a violation of the First Amendment. As we know, nearly 200 million Americans use this app to express themselves, everything from the news to cat videos to the latest dance craze. But the justices appeared skeptical of that argument. And in their decision today, they said, look, this is very specific. We're talking about an app that collects an enormous...
It's an interesting predicament because liberals are like, liberals love resisting Trump. I wonder if they will turn around and quote unquote resist Trump on this and be like, he loves China. He's a Chinese communist agent, becoming even more reactionary for no reason, especially because being reactionary is the name of the game for the Republican Party. So you can never outflank them on racism or xenophobia. So I wonder if like liberals will try to do this silly thing.
Amount of data.
They've already given a major W to Donald Trump by, leaving him as the singular savior of TikTok, a beloved, very popular application by hundreds of millions of Americans. So that in and of itself is already kind of stupid. Oh, craziness overall across the board. You know, truly despicable
stuff. For a foreign
stuff.
Adversary. So they said that even though First Amendment protections are usually given enormous deference, here they're issuing this narrow ruling. So legally, what could happen next? Well, it kind of falls to President-elect Trump if he is able to show that there are serious good faith negotiations underway to sell TikTok. This ban could be paused, but the Supreme Court today also could have paused this and given him more time to engage in those negotiations, and the court chose not to do that.
It is funny how someone in the chat says this as well. It's funny how the news media always says like, it's a silly dance application. Why do people like it so much? If it was just a silly dance application, people wouldn't be actively working to ban it. Okay? Like, they wouldn't be working to undermine this application that 200 million Americans use. They wouldn't be actively working to eliminate it. It was a silly dance application.
Emma.
Yeah, that's certainly notable.
You sure they're pretty dumb? No, dude. It's not just because it's a silly dance application. Okay?
I'm going to bring Joan in because it's interesting. You know, Donald Trump was once spearheading the effort to ban TikTok, and then he's had this reversal. He wants to save it, right? The justices actually noted that he once tried to ban it.
They did, right at the top of the opinion. In a couple different instances, the justices referred to the fact that in August of 2020, Donald Trump had actually issued an executive order against TikTok. And it also noted that he had expressed concerns for the vast swaths of information that TikTok collects on American users. And that goes to the justices' grounds. Just to remind everyone what the federal government had argued here. Two grounds. They argued two grounds. One is all the data that's collected, the amassing of data from 170 million users. But then they also argued that TikTok not only had that data to use for espionage, but also would be in a position to covertly manipulate.
Why are there multiple people sending me the Roseanne Barr Tom McDonald song? Is this another thing that's popping in the Discord server right now that you guys think is like really funny for me to react to right now? Or is it popping in a splinter Discord server so you guys are actively going, hey, this is great. Please watch this.
manipulate messages, different kinds of propaganda. The justices actually set aside the second reasoning. They decided we're not going to look at that one because it was enough for them to find that the threat to national security was in the data collection. And we kind of saw this coming because during oral arguments, several of the justices talked about information that could be collected now on young people who down the road, 10, 15 years from now, come into more important positions and then could be vulnerable to what had been collected on them. And just the risk of not just today, that data collection, but down the road, what Beijing could potentially do to it. And that was the crux of their reasoning.
Yeah. They're not doing anything right now. But what if they were to? We mustn't allow this to happen because they're not doing it right now. But, they could. Good argument, man. Yeah. But somehow TikTok's much worse. It's just like everything that they criticize TikTok for, I've long maintained the position that like virtually every other American-born application does worse, okay? If you're talking about like radicalizing the youth, at least in the direction of like anti-Semitism, or in the direction of misinformation, like spreading misinformation, like every other platform is just as bad, if not the exact same as TikTok, or significantly worse. We can't ban weapons of war from our children in classrooms. We can't get health care. We can't ban the for-profit attitude that corporations have in terms of being mediators in our healthcare without offering any real service whatsoever, just simply making more money. That's it. Generating value for wealthy corporations, the corporate owners. We can't do anything about that. But God forbid, down the line, China might use TikTok against us or something. I don't know. We should ban it just to be safe.
Today, Pam.
And so now you have Donald Trump, who told me on the phone this morning that, look, the decision is ultimately up to me. Congress has given me the decision to do it. Now, we know the law allows this 90-day extension if there are actual, real, tangible negotiations happening. But ByteDance has said it doesn't want to sell TikTok. And so there's this looming question of what's going to happen Sunday when this ban takes place. And between that time and when Donald Trump takes office Monday officially, and what options are available to him?
Yeah, I'm curious what he's being advised as far as how much discretion he has. I don't think this law, as it was passed and as President Biden signed it, really gives the president-elect, future President Trump, a
HasanAbi, would you support Russia owning and operating a popular social media company in the U.S. subsequent to the 2016 disinformation efforts? I'm not saying China and Russia are 100% the same. Just wondering about the extent of your perspective. Yeah, I don't really care. Like I said, first of all, Telegram already exists. And secondly, the problem here is that Russia didn't own or operate a social media platform. And with a couple $1 million, they literally worked within the Facebook system to do this disinformation campaign that you think was so damaging. So that's the point. Like, my point is there are better ways of creating a resilient defense against rising misinformation. Okay? I said this even back then. If the United States of America and American democracy can crumble in the hands of a foreign adversary that has a fraction of the GDP that we have, the fraction of a GDP of a state, basically, inside of the United States of America, with a couple $1 million on a social media platform, we have far larger problems in this country, okay? One must examine why propaganda of this sort could be even remotely effective. At that stage, the American education structure crumbling genuinely creates a national security problem then. But it doesn't seem like we're interested even remotely in solving that real issue. Does that make sense? What a superpower we are that we have regularly engaged in the same profit-seeking attitude in our domestic population to such a degree that we have basically made them dumber and dumber year over year, that they are susceptible to the whims of a foreign adversary that is tiny, that was able to successfully, and to this day still, able to make boomers, for example, who were fed a healthy diet of Red Scare propaganda and hatred of Russia, Russia was able to, through Telegram groups, undermine a century of Red Scare propaganda by using other American motivators like transphobia and homophobia and, you know, family values to basically reverse a century of anti-Russian Red Scare propaganda virtually overnight. How do you not see that as a major problem? Like, think about that. There's nothing funnier to me than watching Republican boomers go from everything around the world is because Russia, scary Soviet Russia, ruined our lives and made our children gay to virtually overnight turning around and going, Russia is the only nation that wants to defend the family values. So I like Vladimir Putin and what he's doing. That happened in such a short time span. Now, that was marginal. It's not all that consequential. I think if you were to ask boomers, they still pretty much hate Russia, right? They still pretty resoundingly despise Russia and are afraid of Russia. But it's crazy that you could even change any boomer's mind on this issue. You can't even change your boomers' minds on not being homophobic. The fact that there is a decent number of MAGA loyalists that also are pro-Russia is crazy. It's crazy.
Whole lot of flexibility in terms of being able to put the brakes on it once it goes into effect. There's a couple different options he has available. One, he could quickly see if he can put together a buyer group, and that is, again, if ByteDance and TikTok are willing to sell it, they have the option to just shut down their own service. They don't actually have to be bought, even if a buying group was put together. The other potential option that President-elect Trump might be thinking through with his team is whether or not he issues an executive order that directs the Attorney General not to enforce the law. In other words, not to conduct the investigations that the act calls for. But the law actually applies to the companies that provide access to the app. So it's the companies that provide the app stores that people download it from. And that puts those companies, if he were to say, look, this law is in place, but I'm just not going to enforce it, go ahead companies and still go ahead and provide access to it, that puts the companies in a really, really difficult place because they're in a position then of potentially not complying with the law and risking huge fines.
Especially for Sunday when he's not officially president.
Well,
right?
he can't do anything before
right.
Sunday. We only have one president at a time.
Exactly, and they've made clear, the Biden White House has made clear, look, it's the end of our term.
They're going to let it go. So the question would be, once President Trump steps into office, what does he do then? Mm-hmm. And it's not so simple. The law doesn't give him a whole lot of flexibility.
I want to go to Elena Treen. Elena, when I spoke to President-elect Trump this morning, he talked about his call with President Xi of China.
The entire system of pacification was built upon people believing the propaganda they're subjected to and the erosion of education, making them unable to understand their exploitation. Gramsci wrote about how the masses had drifted away from the traditional ideologies and towards a structure of feeling that awaited full articulation. Nerd.
And, you know, he said it was a great call, and they talked about TikTok, and they talked about several other issues. But that is notable because really the center of concern here that is also reflected in the Supreme Court opinion is about China, you know, taking Americans' data and spying on Americans. So you have to wonder what really went on in that conversation.
No, exactly. And I'd also keep in mind as well that there's many Republicans in Congress who voted for this bill. I mean, it was a bipartisan bill that Congress approved.
Yeah, Republicans famously don't immediately backtrack when Trump says backtrack now. Yeah, Republicans in Congress are definitely going to go against Teflon Don, JD Pondon. Okay.
Last year to ban TikTok by January 19th. And there's many Republicans who think that this ban needs to move forward despite what Donald Trump is saying. Look, I'd also remind you that Donald Trump himself, back in 2020, before he departed office for his first term, wanted a ban on TikTok. It's actually something that the Supreme Court cited.
It's so funny that virtually every mainstream media outlet is just like, guys, you don't understand. This thing that you all enjoy, that you clearly don't care about if it's like even spying on you, is actually spying on you, and that's dangerous? Why don't you understand that it's dangerous? Hello? Please? Please? Advocate for the ban of this thing, please. This thing that you like. Yes, you will never get health care. Yes, you will never have socialized medicine. You will, like, all medication will cost an incredible sum in perpetuity. You'll never be able to retire. You'll never be able to own a home. And the very last thing that you use to basically forget that harrowing reality, we're going to take away from you, but it's good. It's for your own good. The government will only operate in a meaningful way, in a way where it actually has a tangible impact on your life, if it's negative. Okay, if it takes away your last treat, the treat that you use to just kind of forget how shitty your reality is, please understand it's good. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I promise it's a good thing. Nobody under the age of 40 is looking at that and going, yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you for taking my treat away. I really love that. Just kill me now, please.
In its decision today that he felt that there were national security concerns about a Chinese-owned company owning TikTok. Of course, now we are seeing really the stunning reversal from him. A lot of this is, and we've heard this from Donald Trump.
Like, I'm willing to bet that TikTok as a treat is so powerful that even if it was like somehow undermining people's privacy in a more meaningful way than other applications, because it doesn't currently, okay? People will still be like, no, don't ban it. I don't care. I like it. But the very fact that like every American understands that they are constantly being spied on, like constantly, that they have no semblance of privacy on any of the other app platforms, where at least TikTok is more fun than Instagram Reels. They want the more fun thing. You know what I mean? It's just like, if all the other platforms had like severe privacy restrictions and privacy protections, and TikTok was the only one where it was just like all hands on deck, you know, even then Americans would still be like, I don't really care. But the hilarity of the situation is that there's no privacy anyway.
Directly in his own words, he believes
Eastern Europe is proof that TikTok is dangerous. Yo, not to take away the spotlight from the precious US of A, but can you check out TikTok has been used in Eastern European elections? The ban is totally justified. There are talks to ban it in the EU as well. Regardless of Chinese intention, TikTok is a very useful tool and weapon of manipulation, not propaganda necessarily. All right, bro, then deal with it on your own, all right? Don't come in here with some shit about Romania. I'm sorry, all right? I know what you're talking about. But yeah, that seems like a Romanian issue, all right? Deal with it on your own then. But it's funny because, once again, the same argument pops off. Facebook can be utilized in the exact same way. Facebook is utilizing the exact same way. It's not about TikTok. Okay? YouTube could be utilized in the exact same way.
believes that he's
Twitter is currently owned by a rabid fascist right-wing billionaire, Elon Musk. What do you think he's doing? Forget Facebook. Elon Musk is actively using Twitter to undermine democratic elections everywhere. Just opening up an unlimited faucet of fascist propaganda. And you're over here being like, but TikTok is scary and dangerous. It's like, okay.
warm to TikTok because so many of users in this country, you know, there's tens of millions of Americans who...
Yeah, the owner of Twitter is endorsing the neo-Nazi party in every single European country. And you got Eastern European shadows in here being like, you know what's really dangerous? TikTok. Please.
Use TikTok on a daily basis. Some of them voted for him because they saw a lot of his campaign through the app and by using the app. Now, we also know a couple things. Not only did he talk to Xi Jinping this morning, but he has been in regular contact as well with TikTok CEO Shou Chew. He's talked to him on the phone. We also know he met with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago last month. And Chew is going to be at the inauguration on Monday. We also know that Xi Jinping is sending one of their top officials from the Chinese Communist Party to the inauguration as well, something they are doing for the first time. All to say, this relationship, Donald Trump's relationship with the CEO of TikTok, but also...
Didn't Harris also use TikTok for her campaign? Yes. Like the Democratic Party used TikTok for their political campaigns. And there's apparently a cutout for some American content creators that will make like pro-American content on TikTok anyway, according to Ken Klippenstein's intercepted memorandums they found. Like, so it's obviously not that big of an issue. There's something there that they wanted to stop. Not entirely certain as to how they would be able to even do a cutout for like some American users in general, but like Everyone uses TikTok. 170 million Americans use TikTok, man. That's a crazy number.
Xi Jinping is definitely one of those complicating matters in all of this. Even though Donald Trump has, really said that he wants to take a hardline policy on China, he also has Marco Rubio, if he is confirmed to be his Secretary of State, someone who is very much a hawk on China. He's actually sanctioned by Beijing. All of this is weighing into this decision. But I think the key thing is what Donald Trump is going to do once he is in office. And we do know that he is weighing an executive order to potentially push pause on this ban to see if they can find some sort of agreement with TikTok. I'm told in a short amount of time, maybe 60 to 90 days, to put pause on this so they can try to find some sort of negotiation. So all of this is under consideration. But again, we will not know until Donald Trump officially makes that move once he is in office.
Here's the latest on the TikTok ban.
It's official. The app TikTok is set to be banned.
To the U.S. government, I'm never forgiving you for this.
That's awesome.
TikTok and its US users campaigned hard to block the law banning it in America.
Yeah, and then they found out once again that the American government does not give a single solitary shit about their opinions. If there's anything that could maybe radicalize you in this moment, I hope that this is it. Like, they just don't care. If the abortion ban didn't do it for you somehow, I hope this does. Okay? Holy moly.
But they failed.
Baby dog, that's just my baby dog.
TikTok previously said it would go dark in America on Sunday, taking with it all those dance trends, memes, and marketing opportunities.
Baby work, yeah.
This is not a real cat, okay? But it looks like one.
Leaving creators like 23-year-old Queen Tay without the app responsible for 90% of her income.
Its algorithm is like no other. As somebody who has been posting on every major platform for years.
Abortion ban wasn't bipartisan Congress in 9-0 Supreme Court ruling. Wait, it wasn't a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Supreme Court is yet another way in which the American government, the body of government, operates. It doesn't just have to be the legislative body, okay? The point is, when you think about like the American institutions across the board, when you think about the Supreme Court, when you think about the House of Representatives, okay? No, TikTok was unanimous. TikTok was unanimous, not the abortion ban, okay? But my point is, the Supreme Court and also the legislative body do not operate at the behest of the public. They never have and they never will. That's my point. Hello? Virtually every branch of the government works against your best interests. This is all I'm stating. And for the TikTok ban, it was both the Supreme Court and the legislative body that pushed for it. Virtually through unanimous consent. Supreme Court 9-0, TikTok ban came with like majority numbers as well. Do you think that that was reflective of the broader popular sentiment from the American public? Of course not. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It never has mattered. So even if the abortion ban came through from the Supreme Court, it doesn't change that dynamic at all, because I'm thinking about it from the perspective of the average American citizen. Who the fuck looks at that and goes, well, technically this was just the Supreme Court. Like, it doesn't matter. It still harms Americans in the same exact way. It may be reflective of how Supreme Court feels about the value. Okay, but like Congress was overwhelmingly in support of banning it. That's how it even got to the Supreme Court to begin with. Now, one must ask the question why. One must ask the question why we never have this level of competence, this level of cohesion, this level of bipartisan support when it comes to tackling for-profit healthcare, when it comes to tackling gun violence. How come? Do you think that, after the past 15 months, chatters, wake up, especially after the past 15 months, where overwhelming majorities of the American public wanted a ceasefire implemented in Israel, many of which understood that the only way to get that was by denying weapons transfers to push Benjamin Netanyahu. In spite of the unlimited faucet of misinformation coming from mainstream media, people still recognized that and wanted it. Did it happen? No, not even a little bit. Clearly, no one cares. There's only bipartisanship within our political class when it comes to doing harm. There's never bipartisanship that they can find when it comes to actually helping Americans. Look at the Lake and Riley Act. I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit. It has a filibuster-proof majority because of senators that signed off on it. The Lake and Riley Act, which I've covered in the past, which will allow law enforcement to permanently detain and deport people under suspicion of doing crimes. So anytime someone looks Mexican, okay, and you suspect them of doing a crime, any crime whatsoever, including petty theft, you can just permanently detain them now. And if they end up being undocumented, it's over. Permanent detention. Doesn't matter if they actually did commit that crime, by the way. That's federal law. What is this? Thank God, TikTok influencers get a freaking job. Queen Tay, get a freaking job, Lamau, and provide zero freaking value to society. Get a real freaking job. Maybe save people from a low IQ attention span. Don't care. It's more damaging than helpful. Sell products that actually matter instead of Temu shit. Now, Hasan provides value. TikTok influencers don't. No, depending on who's looking at this, many people think I provide even less value than TikTok content creators. I think it's silly to be like, oh, I personally don't think TikTok provides value. It doesn't matter. The alternative is what? Becoming an Instagram influencer? You're on Twitch, chatter. Come on. Wake up.
And majority of creators could agree with that. That just sense of,
like, I say this as someone who's not even popping on TikTok. Like, I don't have that much of a TikTok presence at all. The HasanAbi Clips Industrial Complex in the last couple of months have made some decent initiatives, decent efforts. Okay. But my motion on TikTok is pretty hit or miss. Having said that, you know, I still think it's absolutely ridiculous to just undermine an entire platform like this that millions of Americans use that actually does, in some instances, provide something positive. I think it's crazy.
Opportunity, that being lost will be devastating.
So will America's 170 million TikTok...
Also, what's funny is people are talking about how, like, Xiaohongshu is actually, like, banning gay people or whatever. You can't say cisgender on Twitter without being limited, okay, openly. But not only that, but also, no, they're not banning LGBT people on Xiaohongshu. What the frick? It's so funny. It's so funny that people are just like, you know, just running on this. They're entertaining this narrative. It's like, nah, Xiaohongshu, don't look at it yourself. But I've heard that they're banning gay people there, which is hilarious because it's mostly being said by people who hate gay people.
Users wake up on Sunday morning to find their favourite app is dead. Or could he get a stay of execution? It seems Donald Trump doesn't want to be the president whose first act in office is to terminate TikTok. He'd rather be the one who saves it. President Trump first backed the ban based on fears TikTok's Chinese ownership compromised American national security. But now he's changed his mind.
With billions of views, billions and billions of views, they brought me a chart, and it was a record, and it was so beautiful. This
unironically is probably the last saving grace here. It's not even a joke. Like, this straight up is like the only thing that's saving TikTok, most likely.
To see, and as I looked at it, I said, maybe we got to keep this sucker around a little while.
He's indicated he'll extend President Biden's pledge not to prosecute any violation of the ban, provided TikTok is sold to an American owner. But it's not a tune TikTok is dancing to, nor Beijing, which must approve any deal. They refuse to sell. Legal experts think TikTok is unlikely to ignore an act of Congress, and President Trump doesn't have the power to either.
Trump is inclined to do anything he manages to have the logistical and practical power to do. But we're kind of skirting a number of constitutional crises if he does that. His job as chief executive is to enforce and uphold the law. And if he's not enforcing and upholding the law, that's a problem.
Barring a repeal of the law by Congress or an unlikely climb down by Beijing, it'll be tough to keep TikTok alive in America, even for the deal maker in chief. Tom Clark, Sky News.
You mentioned Kevin O'Leary. He's with us now on the telephone. And, sir, good day to you. You have made no secret of your quest. What's the price tag? How far have you gotten? Kevin.
Yep, sorry. Okay, so what we have here is the clock ticking. And what I think a lot of people don't understand about this situation, which is a derivative of the order, but this is where it gets complex. As of midnight on the 19th, any service provider that could...
CIA analyst pleads guilty to leaking classified documents about Israel. The analyst was charged with 2 counts of violating the Espionage Act and faced up to a decade in prison for disclosing sensitive information about Israel's response to an Iranian attack. Damn, they packed this guy up real quick. Remember when the CIA analyst leaked details about Israel's nuclear weapons program that America obviously was aware of because they were so aware of it that it's like a part of their... Like, they said, oh, they're not going to use nukes. Like, they checked it off in the box. That was awesome. But hey, God forbid we entertain that notion in public.
It could be an Apple. That could be an Oracle. It could be a video compression technology company.
Yeah, maybe he was, maybe he got his brain rotted by TikTok. That's why we got to ban it.
That's being paid as a consulting service. Any of them that keep this thing alive is subject to $5,000 a day fine times 170 million.
I hate this scumbag Kevin O'Leary who's like going on Fox News here to every day to just like improve his own social status and nothing else. First of all, you're a Canadian, okay? Go deal with your own country. Go deal with your own country. Nonsensical, okay? Secondly, you got no motion. He's just on there every day to talk about how scary TikTok is, basically. That's it. And how they must ban it. And the only reason why he's saying that is because he wants his buddies to purchase it potentially.
That's over $1 billion a day. Now, if you're the counsel for any of these companies right now in the last 15 minutes, you're advising your executive and the board that the risk inherent here is the first $1.7 billion of fines is going to be implemented, maybe or maybe not, until the executive order, which is untested.
Yeah, Kevin O'Leary killed a woman in a boating accident and blamed his wife for it.
We don't know if an executive order can override a law from Congress. There's a case in 1937 that was used successfully, but you don't know. So as of right now, unless the company enters into an agreement to be purchased by an American syndicate, and Biden, who's the executive right now, waived for 90 days, this thing goes dark at midnight because who...
God, I hate reactionary Canadians even more because like they always come to America and just behave in this ridiculous manner. They always, oh God, it's like go mess up your own country, man.
Who's going to take on $1.7 billion risk at midnight? Who's going to do that? What counsel would advise? This is the most interesting, complicated, crazy situation I've ever been involved in. I'm really excited about it.
So it's been said that the CCP out of Beijing...
Like, this is just false. Look at this. 85,000 likes. Chinese app red notice. Removing LGBTQ content and suspending accounts. Hilarious to say this. Not only is it false, but hilarious to say this on Twitter, of all places, where there are numerous anti-queer terrorists that are some of the most prominent accounts on the platform and routinely get elevated by the owner of the platform. This is happening in the same week where Facebook's very own Dick Zuckerberg came out and was like, oh yeah, dude, if you want to say like, you know, trans people are mentally ill, then you're totally allowed to do it on Meta. It's just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? What is this take? What is this statement like? Oh man, the Chinese are anti-gay. Also, I'm anti-gay too, but when the Chinese do it, I hate it. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. That very same account. Remember when PC Gamer used to be about video games? OnlyFans model. BioWare accused of deliberately making Mass Effect Andromeda female characters ugly. Just stumbled upon this old article. We've been having this ugly character gaming culture for almost 10 years now, apparently. Wow. Guess what subreddit is believing it? Of course. The funniest part is they literally didn't see that coming. It's just like all of these people who are anti-gay being like, well, when China does it, it's bad. When they're not even doing it. No one cares. Chinese apps do definitely have a lot of a hair trigger on bans for sure. I mean, TikTok included. Okay. But it's funny to be like, yeah, they're unconditionally banning all of the gay accounts when they're not doing that while you simultaneously are openly anti-gay. It's so fucking stupid. On the application, some of the largest anti-LGBT. Anyway, I said something so funny about just lying about this while also being anti-queer on the application that promotes some of the largest anti-LGBT terrorists. Theoretically, if Twitter was owned by a China-based company, would you still want it to be available in the US even though it's turned into a right-wing leaning platform? That's actually a good question. That's a great question. I unconditionally don't want right-leaning platforms. That's part of the reason why I don't have an issue with TikTok. Even though it has a healthy diet of misinformation and right-wing nonsense on it as well, it still also heavily not favors, but it still has some semblance of parity with left-wing ideology being broadly represented on it. My issues with all of these platforms stem from the unlimited amount of misinformation that exists in them and the American government not doing anything about it. And I don't even know what the best possible way to move to combat this misinformation is in general. But it's just like Twitter already is owned by, partially owned by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's wealth fund is the second largest investor in Twitter after Elon Musk. But yeah, Red Note is like, as far as I understand, is like super gay. So that's why it's funny that they're like, oh, they're very anti-LGBT over there. It's just not the case. Why do these people say things and don't back it up with any proof? Because he got 85,000 likes on it, man. Who is going to offer a context note to it? Who's going to offer a context note to it? All the people that write those like content warnings and context notes are all Redditors, and all Redditors hate China. So they love spreading fake shit like this. Yeah, no, they're not. Hey, I'm a Redditor for like 16 years and don't hate China. Okay, you're one of the few. Also, why would you ever admit that you've been a Redditor for 16 years? You couldn't get that information out of me in a CIA black site under torturous conditions. Let's continue.
Could control the algorithm, which would do a lot of negative things here in the U.S. and influence a lot of people in ways that, frankly, we don't want to happen. This past week, some others have argued that the CCP could get access to your passwords. Is that true?
Nobody knows.
Why are you asking Kevin O'Leary this question? Why would he know anything? He's a dumbass boomer. It's like you would have a better chance. You would have a higher statistical probability of encountering a random person that is more aware of like OPSEC and tech related issues if you were to do a man on the street interview where you pose the same question than asking Kevin O'Leary. What does he know? He knows nothing.
Extent of which the algorithm provides data, it's been highly speculated, but, you know, there's a reason that Congress put this order in front of the Supreme Court. There's a reason they ruled in favor of it. It's not worth taking the risk. And so the obvious solution is to sell it to an American syndicate as per the order, and then decide whether you're going to rewrite the algorithm completely or fork the code, as it's called in the software industry, which I don't think many of the subcommittees are going to allow.
Okay, all right.
We just don't know.
Okay, so I hear all your hesitation. One last question. Thanks for jumping on the phone. Kevin, what is the price tag to get the deal done?
Right now, $20 billion's on the table. Cash, $20 billion.
Will that do it?
Well, I don't know. We're you know, 10 minutes old. I like to say.
Breaking up on the phone.
Okay.
We heard the important thing. That was $20 billion. Kevin, thank you. Charge your phone. We'll bring you back.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to brave the cold at Monday's inauguration, and we will be braving the cold, including some of the biggest names in the tech world. Nancy Cordes is covering the Trump transition. She's in West Palm Beach, where it's a whole lot warmer there. Nancy, get good morning, and let's all get ready for a shock to the system.
I am recalibrating my outfit choices as well, Gail. Monday is going to be a cold one. And you're right, there is a growing list of tech titans who are going to be getting the VVIP treatment.
I love that Kevin ended it with, well, there's a reason why Congress banned it. And it's funny because he's like, you know, Congress, the most tech illiterate geriatric people on the planet, they famously understand these things. Oh, if Congress in our gerontocracy were to come to this conclusion, then it must be true. Forbes continues to hang out in chat, reporting your takes from days ago. Here's why Red Note will probably be banned like TikTok. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have been saying that.
Treatment on Monday at the inauguration. The latest is the CEO of TikTok. He is going to be joining Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and the CEOs of Apple and Google, who have all been invited to sit right up on the platform where Trump will be sworn in.
That's a flex, by the way. This is straight up a flex. Our tech oligarchs, everybody, they're all on board. All matter of communications platforms are now completely servile to the great God King Donald Trump.
Alongside Trump family members, former presidents, and cabinet picks. Now, most of these CEOs have been on something of a charm offensive in recent weeks, visiting Trump at Mar-a-Lago, donating millions of dollars to his inaugural committee. And it sure sounded like that's exactly what President Biden was referring to in his farewell speech the other night, when he warned for the first time about what he called the tech industrial complex and a growing American oligarchy. One other interesting development from here in Palm Beach yesterday, Trump announced that he was named.
Bill Gates talks about the recent 3-hour-long dinner he had with President-elect Trump. Gates says the only other person to join from the Trump side was Susie Wiles. Gates said he was impressed with Trump's interest in the issues he discussed, including polio eradication, specifically with cases in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and many African nations in Gaza. Gates also said Trump was excited about the possibility of accelerating approvals for a cure for HIV/AIDS that the Gates Foundation is working on. Gates donated $50 million to the Kamala Harris super PAC.
Have you met with Donald Trump since the election?
Yeah, I had a chance to go.
It's so funny that like these multi-billionaires just have direct access to the freaking president. Like they just like what are we doing? How is this any different than having lords and monarchs? It's so I don't know. Maybe I'm the friend who's too woke. I don't know, but it just feels crazy to me that they're just like, that's just a guy, man.
Go have a long and actually quite intriguing dinner with him.
What did you discuss? What was intriguing?
Well, we touched on a lot of things. It was over 3 hours. To my surprise, it was, just he and I, his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and the person who helps manage things for me, Larry Cohen. So the four of us sat there, and it was quite wide-ranging. Global health's the area that I work in, and such amazing things have happened and can happen.
It was not in public before. Yes, it was. It was. But they're just flexing at this point. They're just so much. It was readily available to those who seek out this information. But nowadays, I think it's even more in your face. That's the only difference. Like, it's just crazy, man. Like, people always flex about how, like, we're above this now. Like, we're no longer living in a feudal state. When we just have a neo-serfdom, a tech feudalism, if you will, in America. And yeah, the lords are kissing the ring of the new God-ordained monarch.
There, I spoke a lot about HIV and that the foundation's literally working on a cure for that. We're at an early stage, and so he, in the COVID days, accelerated the vaccine innovation. So I was asking him, if maybe the same kind of thing could be done here. And we both got, I think, pretty excited about that. We talked about polio.
Why do you think Microsoft is not kissing the ring? Yes, he is. What are you talking about? He had a 3-hour conversation with the president-elect. I don't really get why Bill Gates is back. Could you explain? Yeah, I mean, where do I begin? In spite of all of the innovative research that he talks about in the field of medicine, Bill Gates literally personally went to AstraZeneca, went to Oxford, and made sure that the patents for AstraZeneca at a time when everyone needed the COVID vaccine was maintained as private IP, because he was genuinely afraid that if the international governments decided that in times of crisis you can actually open up patents, that would spell trouble for his bottom line, considering that his entire work revolves around enclosures around intellectual property, enclosures around software. So he actually staved off global cooperation in the scientific community and most likely caused many people to die as a consequence of that. If AstraZeneca was able to freely deliver its patent to India, the global South would have gotten cheap access to the COVID vaccine instantly. He also lied in the process. He said, don't actually publicize this patent, because if you do, India is not capable of creating a competent enough vaccine. It doesn't have the facilities to create these vaccines in the same way. If you universalize this patent, then India will make bad vaccines, and it will cause a lot of people to be anti-vaxxers because people will die. Now, of course, what's really crazy about that is that India has the facilities to create the vaccines to begin with. That's so insane for him to say. It's like insanely racist for him to say. So with that one moment, Bill Gates probably cost the lives of tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands of people around the world, while claiming that India doesn't have the access to the technological improvements to develop a competent vaccine, like a good vaccine. That is before we talk about what Bill Gates has done as the principal party in gutting American education, okay? Yeah, Bill Gates is a demon and has helped defund Washington state public schools for charter schools. Then voters clapped him at the polls, and the state Supreme Court clapped him too. Massive advocate for charter schools. Yeah, here's Melinda Gates. Following criticism, the Gates Foundation encouraged Oxford to sell the exclusive rights to its vaccine to AstraZeneca instead of allowing it to be open source. Melinda Gates that Oxford needed to partner with a pharmaceutical company to provide its vaccine. She added that the Gates Foundation can now work to ensure the vaccine is affordable. Yeah, the world loses under Bill Gates' vaccine colonialism. As many countries wait for COVID vaccines, the world needs a patent-free people's vaccine, not more of Gates' intellectual property stubbornness. Purely self-interested, by the way. It's a dangerous, I covered this extensively at the time, an incredibly dangerous precedent for the likes of Bill Gates and many other billionaires if one were to see a world rid of the patent structure, where there is endless cooperation in the field of innovation, across the board, whether it be software, hardware, medicine, anything, pharmaceuticals. Because if people got a little taste of that international cooperation and actually were able to innovate dramatically, because there is unlimited potential in the global South, as I always like to say, that would be devastating for these profit seekers who seek to continue enforcing enclosures on data, basically. So yeah, I don't care that he's a nice guy, supposedly. India is the hub for the global South to get cheap, high-quality medicines. It's the, yeah, exactly. It's the one and only sector that has not been fully destroyed by capitalism yet. The global South heavily depends on said market for medical assistance on the most remote, underprivileged, and vulnerable areas. Yes. So yeah, fuck Bill Gates.
Naming Jon Voight, Mel Gibson, and Sylvester Stallone to be his, quote, special envoys to Hollywood, a new position to promote American filmmaking. That led to a rather amusing statement from Mel Gibson, who said that he found out about it at the same time we all did, but that he is ready to heed the call. Gail?
All right, Nancy, thank you very much. On Mondays, CBS Mornings will come to you live from the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Then CBS News will bring you extensive coverage of the presidential inauguration. Starts at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, right after our show. We're going to focus on the transition of power with the swearing in of President-elect Donald Trump, his inaugural address, and of course, their traditional parade.
And President-elect Trump's inauguration is now set to move indoors due to weather in Washington, D.C. It'll be the coldest inauguration day in decades, with temperatures expected near or below freezing. White House correspondent Karen Travers has the latest on that. So, Karen, how are these inauguration plans changing?
Yeah, this is a major change, Diane, one that they
Oh, no.
certainly do not take lightly when you think about all the planning that has gone into this inauguration day and everything that goes into the parade, the security, and all of that. But the temperatures are expected to be very cold here in Washington on Monday, likely in the low 20s with wind chills in the single digits. So they're going to move everything inside, not outside of the Capitol on a platform. It will be inside in the rotunda for the swearing in and the speeches as well. President-elect Donald Trump put out a statement responding to this change, saying that he doesn't want to see people hurt or injured in any way. He said it's dangerous conditions for the tens of thousands of law enforcement, first responders, police canines, even horses, and the hundreds of thousands of supporters that will be outside for many hours on Inauguration Day. Still, he says, Diane, if you're going to decide to come, dress warmly. He also says that they're going to open up Capital One Arena, which is the downtown arena here in Washington where the Wizards basketball team and the Capitals hockey team play. He said they're going to open that up for a live viewing of the historic event at the Capitol and also to host the presidential parade. Not sure exactly how that's going to work and bring things in, but the president-elect says he's going to show up there at Capitol One and be there after his swearing in and join his supporters in the arena. Diane?
All right, White House correspondent Karen Travers. Karen, thank you.